Welcome to You, Me, Empathy. Thank you for listening. We would like to remind you that this podcast is for informational and entertainment purposes only, and is not a substitute for medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Known as just a silly boy with a feely heart. Please consider supporting the show. Check us out on Patreon or simply leave a review on iTunes. Here's your host and creator of the show, Known Wells.
Hello, Feely humans. Welcome to another episode of You, Me, Empathy. My name is Known Wells, and I am here introing the episode 90, with my guest, Dr. Christina Iglesia. Dr. Christina is amazing and doing wonderful work online and in her therapy practice. She has a mental health action campaign called #TherapyIsCool. And I have all the links to that in the show notes for this episode. On this episode, we talk about bringing humanness into her work as a therapist, the familial mental health struggles that inspired her, Dr. Christina, to go into psychology, and her super inspiring mental health action campaign, #TherapyIsCool. If you go to #therapyiscool.com, with hashtag spelled out, HASHTAG, therapyiscool.com. Buy yourself a tote. It's really cool. And Dr. Christina is doing amazing work, and I love this conversation. It was cut short a little bit at the end because Dr. Christina had a patient that she was running late to, so we went a little bit over our time, but that's just because I had such a good time chatting with her. I consider her one of my heroes, and she's doing wonderful work, so go follow her. Again, all the links are in the show notes. Before we get to the episode, I did have a few things to say. One is I didn't get to mention my empathy hero in this episode because we were cut short, as I mentioned. So my empathy hero this week is Jennifer Pasteloff, who is an author, and she does workshops and things. I'm mentioning her because I am currently reading On Being Human. That's Jen's book. And it's really beautiful. I love the way she describes things. I love her framework on the world. And a lot of the stuff that I'm only into like the third chapter or something, but I'm just like nodding along, the whole time saying like, yes, yes, yes. I relate so much. Oh my goodness. So I think you will too. The book's called On Being Human, and it's by Jennifer Pasteloff. It's great. So she's my empathy hero this week. The other thing I wanted to mention is I recently shared a post on Instagram and Facebook asking if you'd like to see a new episode, like on this feed per week on Fridays, or a YouTube version of an episode in addition to a regular episode on Mondays. And the majority wanted YouTube. So I'm going to look into that. That is the plan. And I was kind of hoping that it would be YouTube, to be honest, because it doesn't cost me any more money. And I think adding an extra episode to the feed would cost me more money. Not that I wouldn't do that, and not that that's not a possibility. It could be. So, but look out for the YouTube channel. I want to, as you lovely feely humans know, I am building a business right now. I've recently been talking about it a little. I haven't given much away, but the YouTube channel will play a role in that, and also you will play a role. I want this growing business idea that I have will include you. Like the community aspect of You, Me, Empathy is very important to me. And I with this new idea, I want it to be even more so. So I'm working on ideas for that. And, I look out for, it'll be here sooner than later. My goal is to start reaching out to people to kind of like be a part of a pre-launch team, is what I'm calling it, which is very exciting. Starting in November. So that's coming up very, very quickly here. And so look out for that. If you like this show, if you like You Me Empathy, if you appreciate what I'm doing in terms of spreading the message of empathy and vulnerability and emotional wayfinding as these core tenets of recovery, and then you're going to love this new thing I'm doing, because it's that in some different mediums, and I'm working on strategy about how I can bring more of you into it. So also, if you have any ideas on that, I'm open ears. I've never done a business before, so it's new and exciting and scary, and I'm learning as I'm going. So if you have a business yourself and you want to give me business advice, I'm all ears. Literally. Not literally. I don't have ears. I have 2 ears, but I don't have ears, on my butt, for instance. But maybe I should. Any hoozles, look out for that. And if you're excited, definitely let me know, because I need the validation. I want to hear from you. If you're excited about this new thing, let me know on Instagram @YouMeEmpathy or on Twitter @YouMeEmpathy. And I guess that's it. That's all I'm going to say for this little intro. Please enjoy my chat with the wonderful Dr. Christina in episode 90.
La la la, you, me, empathy, yeah, la la la.
Welcome to You, Me, Empathy, a podcast about exploring the struggles we face in our day-to-day lives as humans trying to get by on this wondrous and overwhelming pale blue dot. The intent of You Me Empathy is to talk openly, without judgment, about our neuroses, our mental illnesses, our shared anxieties and worries, to create a dialogue that is vulnerable and deeply human and empathetic, and to share that dialogue with others to inspire emotional and cognitive collaboration and insight, so we can, hand in hand, break down the stigma that make us feel shame and guilt for struggling, for feeling our feelings, for being feely humans. You Me Empathy is a safe, friendly space designed to inspire the beauty in each of us. Today, I'm #overjoyed to lay down on the proverbial therapist couch with clinical psychologist, stigma battler, and #therapyiscool creator, Dr. Christina Iglesia. Hello, Christina.
Hi.
How's it going?
Good. I really like my intro. I'm going to try to maybe use it more often.
Oh, good.
Stigma battler. I feel like I should put that in my new headline.
I thank you for the compliment. I appreciate it. I enjoy creating the little intros for my guests, and you hear stigma fighter all the time.
I know.
And so I wanted to change it up.
Okay. I'm going to #stigma battler now. So be careful. It's about to take off.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much for being on You Me Empathy.
Thank you for asking me to. I'm really excited to talk about all things mental health.
Lovely. Lovely. Well, that's what this show is all about. Well, before we get into your story, Christina, we always kick off the show with an emotional check-in. How are you?
Okay.
How are you feeling in this moment? How's your week been?
It's been a little more hectic than planned, but in a kind of good stress. I think that when we think of stress, we automatically think negative, but it's been an exciting week with lots of opportunities to battle stigma out in the open and work with patients and connect with people. So stressful, but in a good way.
Okay. What in particular stresses you out?
I think when I take on more than I am physically or emotionally capable to.
Sure.
I think that wanting to really make #therapy is cool a success, and wanting to say yes to projects and also finding balance in the real world is something that I am being more mindful about as the weeks continue, and trying to find some kind of semblance between my advocacy work, my clinical work, and my life in general work that I can do.
Yeah. I think certainly we can all relate to that. I mean, the
Yes.
balance of the work and the life and all the things, and wanting to do all the things and wanting to say yes, and because
Yes.
culture says we need to say yes more, and all that pressure. I'm curious, like, so I have a couple of friends who are therapists, like yourself.
Yes. Awesome.
And
Pretty awesome.
the consensus that I get from Tony, and the listeners know Tony, and then my friend Dave, is that they're like constantly busy. It's like, and particularly, I've had chats with Tony, and I don't think he'll mind me saying this, but he cares so much and wants to do so much and wants to be there for his patients. And yet he's just like so overworked. So finding that balance.
Yeah, I think that people assume that therapists have it all figured out. And we are humans, and we are constantly trying to navigate the same struggles as everybody else. And one of the struggles that goes hand in hand with our profession is this deep desire to help. And there's always going to be people that are going to be needing your help. And how do you try to the best of your ability to balance how much you can give, so that you're also in turn taking care of yourself?
Yeah, 100%. It's funny that we do that. You mentioned, I love that you said that the general public does do that. We look at doctors, we look at therapists, we look at people of quote unquote higher achievement as non-human, and it's totally unfair.
Come on, people. Yeah. No, the good thing is I definitely, and my patients would agree, I try to bring my humanness into my work, because I think it's so important to model the fact that I am human. And while I have a degree and the privilege of an education, I am at the root the same exact, being that all of us are. And so it's so important for me to show when I make mistakes, to show my hiccups and limitations, so that people understand that therapists are human, and therapists are similar in so many ways to the people that they work with.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, vulnerability, right? Vulnerability is such a huge connector. I find, like, in doing this show and just sort of my own therapy and recovery journey and healing journey,
right?
Vulnerability and empathy. Those two have been like huge parts of my healing. Yeah.
And I think that in order to be a productive therapist, you have to bring that into the room, or the people that you work with aren't going to be able to connect with you. Totally. You have to be human first and therapist second, because we are all trying to navigate this journey of life, and to know that there are people that want to authentically connect and support you, I think is part of the therapeutic value of therapy.
Yeah, absolutely. Something happened for me this week. I wanted to share with the listeners and you, Christina. I recently, a couple of weeks ago, I'm a runner, and I signed up for a couple of longer trail runs. I love to run trail, and I did a half marathon trail run a couple weeks ago. Did well, but I'm getting older. I'll be 38 this year, and I have a bad hip
Mm-hmm.
and a back, and I have like arthritis in my back, and like I have pain, and
Right.
and I decided for myself to stop the longer runs and just
Mm-hmm.
I have to listen to my body. I think
Mm-hmm.
it's time for me. I got to grow up a little bit and listen to my body and recognize the sort of key thing the nugget that I sort of discovered this week is that I could still be a runner. That can still be sort of a part of my identity and my value, but that it changes, right?
Right.
And
Right.
it's so weird that we humans, and I recognize this in myself and others, we want to hold on to like certain aspects of our identity
Mm-hmm.
and keep them wherever they are, right?
Right.
It's like we don't expect that to change. It's so strange.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that once we have formed our identity, we are really locked into keeping it because it's something that we know and it's something that we have some semblance of control over.
Totally.
And to see that it shifts without our knowledge, without our consent, can be really dismantling for a lot of us. And so I think the way that you navigated it is the healthiest way to kind of look at what is wanting you to continue to hold so tightly into that identity, and is there a healthier, happier way to still incorporate something like running so that you still feel that connection to something that brings you joy but isn't in turn going to cause you unnecessary harm.
Yeah, totally, 100%. And it takes some acceptance. It takes some self-kindness.
Mm-hmm.
It takes like questioning, like, why am I sort of tied up in this? Like, why am I holding on to this idea that you are this runner that runs for 10, 15 miles at a time? Like, why are you holding on to that?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that it's something that you worked hard at, right? And something that you care about and you have passion for, and to see that shifting and that your body isn't supporting it the same way is hard and is difficult. And the best thing is to have real self-compassion and kindness around that.
Yeah. Thank you for that validation.
Yeah.
Or maybe
you're
it's just an
validated.
early midlife crisis. Who knows?
I mean, midlife crises happen at any age.
That's true. Well, thank you for that. Let's jump into your story. I'm very curious to kind of hear your origin story, really. And the first question I like to ask my guests is, can you give me a couple, one or two seminal moments from your childhood or your young adulthood that kind of speak to who you are now as this therapist, where you are in your mental health journey? Just a couple of moments that really stick out as being really memorable as part of this journey of yours.
Yeah, I think that's a really thoughtful question, and one that makes you think about how you got to the place you are right now. And for me, when I'm looking at where I'm at, I like to think about why mental health is so important for me and why it has shaped me both professionally and personally. So I usually think back to when I started to understand mental health and what it was, which was when I was an adolescent and I had a family member that was going through some pretty serious mental health issues as a result of trauma. I, at that time in my life, wasn't aware of what trauma really was. I wasn't aware of mental illness. I wasn't aware of addiction and self-harm. And I didn't have the mindset, the knowledge, the conversations that really would have allowed me to understand it. So instead, I was very fearful and concerned and stressed, which then in turn caused me to experience my own mental health concerns and struggles with this kind of blanketed anxiety of what is happening in my world, what is happening to the people that I love, and what am I supposed to do in situations where I feel like I don't know what to do. That kickstarted the journey of wanting to understand human and wanting to understand what are the factors that play into how we are and who we are and what we are. And I decided to go to school for psychology. And once I took my first class, I knew that this was the perfect way to weave in my own personal experiences, my family experience, and a route that I could take that could ensure I could use the skills that I've developed in my own therapy to help other people hopefully navigate life in a supportive and informative way.
Mm-hmm.
And fast forward, I didn't take a break from undergrad to grad. So I just hopped on that train and kept going. And I got my doctorate in psychology. And once I was licensed, I started practicing, and that's how I am where I am right now.
Wow. So you, in your mind, you're making that sort of direct connection between that moment in your adolescence to where you are now.
Yeah, I think it opened my eyes. It was my first experience of seeing mental illness firsthand, and seeing the true complexity and devastation and complication that goes with it. That it's not this singular symptom or issue or scenario, that it is so complex and multifactorial, and that there isn't just one way to navigate mental health. And so I wanted to get skills and learn more so that I could in turn support other people as they navigate their own mental health conditions.
Yeah. And it's very admirable. I'm curious, was your sense then curiosity? Was it fear? Was it both?
Yeah, I think that when I first saw mental illness kind of implode in my family, it was definitely fear, because I didn't have an understanding of what it was. And so that lack of information really drove me to want to learn as much as I could so that I could support other people that may one day find themselves in a situation that they don't understand. I think that if you're not in the mental health field and you don't know people that experience mental health conditions, it can be extremely scary to see what it can look like at a certain level.
Yeah.
And so wanting to, instead of just sitting there and being helpless and hopeless, I wanted to take that and use it as something that would allow me to have my experience mean something bigger to more people, so that they in turn could hopefully navigate that with somebody that not only has their own personal experience, but also has an education that can couple that into effective treatment.
Yeah. Yeah, the education piece is such a huge, it just kind of at least attempts to get you on the same page. Like I have a brother who has schizophrenia, and I've learned a lot about that disorder over the years, because I want to be there and I want to try to meet him on his level. Obviously, the way he views the world is different than I, but at least I can, and I've developed the skills to partially meet him where he's at, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it does. No, please continue.
I was just curious. Like, I want to be sensitive to this, but I'm curious. are you open to talking about what that mental illness experience was in your family?
Yeah, so it was somebody in my family had experienced a very severe traumatic event at a young age, and in turn coped with it through substance abuse and self-harm.
Mm-hmm.
And as a adolescent, I didn't understand either of those things very well. And so to see that chaos and to see that totally readjust the family dynamic, I was fearful and I was concerned and I was definitely unsure on what I was supposed to do or not do as a family member to somebody who was so completely and utterly struggling.
Are you the type of person who emotionally tries to take that stuff on?
I think that when it's your family, it is so unbelievably hard not to.
Right. Totally.
I think that those are your people. And so when you see they are struggling, you in turn are struggling. And that is something that through my own therapy, I was able to not take on. And I understood very clearly that other people's healing journeys are not mine. And that
Such an important point.
Yeah. And that then when I became a psychologist, as much as my patients mean to me, I do also understand that therapy is not about forcing somebody to do anything other than what they are going to do, but it's more about being there and helping guide them to come to their own realizations of what they want their healing journey to be.
Yeah, that's right on. I mean, that's really well said.
Thank you.
Yeah. And how did the rest of your family react to this self-harm and this substance abuse?
Yeah, I think we all had a similar reaction of, what is this? Why is this happening? What did we miss? Right?
Sure.
You have all of that guilt and responsibility. And I know I definitely experienced all those emotions, everything from sadness to anger to frustration to chaos. You go through it all when it is affecting your family unit.
Yeah.
And so thankfully, I'm part of a family that understands that once this did, kind of play out, that mental health support was necessary. And so I know, and I work with lots of families that they don't access support until years after these events played out. And so I feel so fortunate that I'm part of a family that accessed it once these things began to develop, so that all of us in the family unit was able to have a safe space to process what was going on.
Wow, that's amazing.
It is. I truly believe it is.
It's certainly not the norm. The amount of people I've spoken to on this show, the vast majority are coming from environments where it just wasn't talked about.
Yep. Yeah. And so, we couldn't predict it and we couldn't necessarily stop it all, but we could get support and we could find ways so that the family members, including myself, could have some psychological support as we were trying as a family to navigate something that was completely unforeseen, but definitely needed people's support and awareness and education around.
Yeah. And for you, Christina, aside from the sort of curiosity sort of fueling your, I got to learn more about this, what did that support look like for you?
So clarify what you're asking so that I make sure I'm hitting it right.
Sure. So did you start therapy at that time? Did you, were you looking into, medication, those sorts of things?
Yeah, so I definitely accessed therapy at that time because I think that my family saw it was a really disorienting experience for me to see things suddenly go from, hey, this is our lives, to, wow, all of these things have suddenly changed.
Yeah.
And I accessed support, and again, so incredibly grateful that my family gave me that gift of therapy, because that is the place that, I could have gone different ways with my life. And I was able to find a supportive system that allowed me to really process all the feelings I was feeling, all the anxiety that my body was holding on to, and why I was potentially experiencing certain thoughts, feelings, behaviors, and ways that I can cope with them, so that this experience doesn't in turn shape me in a way that becomes unhealthy, that becomes potentially a place with limited boundaries, all the ways that mental illness can affect families. I was really able to get insight and information through my own therapy experience.
That's great. That's great to hear. Now, you obviously having all this education now, you have you have a tremendous language to make sense of all this stuff. What was it like when you first went to therapy? Was it easy to talk about it? How was that for you?
Well, I always think back to the first therapist I met, which wasn't the one that I continued with. And that is also why I advocate for people to really find a good fit. But the first therapist I ever went to, I remember I walked in, and I remember what I was wearing too, because somehow this was going to be an important, day. And her first thought to share with me was, wow, you don't look like somebody with anxiety.
Oh, wow. Oh, no.
I know. Thus the reason. It really shaped my idea of stigma. And, as you shared that I created this campaign about stigma, but it's also because I have had it placed on me. And so I remember going home, and I remember talking to my family and being like, yeah, she said that I don't look like somebody with anxiety. And as, an adolescent, I don't know what that means.
Sure.
All I know that it meant that it didn't feel good to be in that space. And so my family found a different therapist, and I walked in, and it was a different experience. And it was a therapist that I used on and off for, a decade. And part of the reason that I went to grad school was that she really told me, hey, you can do this. You can use your life and your experiences to help others. And so it is about finding a good fit, and it is about finding a space that's going to allow you to really navigate the things that are going on in your life, as well as the things and goals that you want in turn as you move forward.
Yeah. I'm glad you said the part about finding a good fit, because it is hard. It is hard.
Like, I'll talk about it all day. Yeah.
I've been there myself,
Yes.
And also I think another sort of wrinkle to that is there are good therapists, and there are also bad therapists.
Yep.
Just like they're good and bad in every sort of realm of the world.
Yeah, every profession. And unfortunately, the bad therapists are pretty darn bad. So it doesn't help, right? When the media or, films kind of highlight the bad therapists. Yeah. I always have to joke around with my friends when they watch a movie and they say like, oh yeah, there was a therapist, you should watch it. I was like, it depends what kind of therapist was being displayed, because there are a lot of negative associations, and some of them are completely legitimate, and some of them are definitely fabricated for entertainment. And so it's about how do we represent our field in a professional and ethical way, and also acknowledge that sometimes if somebody walks into therapy and it's not the right fit, they're never going to go back to therapy. And that is really heartbreaking for me.
It really is. I remember I was, how old was I? It was 2002. I was a sophomore, 2001. I was a sophomore in college, studying abroad in Swansea, Wales.
Oh.
In the throes of anorexia. very sick, and I was self-harming, I was suicidal,
Right.
and I went to my first therapist.
Right.
It was at the University of Swansea, and I was terrified. I didn't know what to say. I didn't even, at that point, I wasn't even using the language eating disorder.
No.
And I went to her, and I don't remember what she said, but I remember leaving about a half hour later, feeling absolutely defeated, feeling unsupported, feeling like she had no clue what to do with me. Thankfully, I got through that and am now in therapy and with an amazing therapist. But I mean that experience could have been
door closing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think that it is for so many people. And so I always tell the patients I work with in the first session, after today's session, you get to go home and you get to decide, right, if this is going to be a good fit, because I want to provide a space that it is okay to say no in. And if this doesn't feel like a good space for you to really do the therapeutic work, therapists can't take that personally. And some will and some do. And that's a disservice to the people in the world. So to really invite people in, but also give them the total green light to find somebody that's going to be a good fit, whether it's expertise, whether it's gender, whether it's age, it doesn't matter. It's really about the therapeutic value of the relationship between the therapist and patient truly drives how the therapy will look.
Yeah. Why do you feel that there is still, I mean, even it's 2019 and there still is a stigma around going to therapy? Why do you think that still persists?
Hashtag therapy is cool. I think that as long as there is a stigma around mental illness, there will be a stigma around mental health treatment. I truly believe that is connected. I think that
makes sense.
People, it's the same thing, right? As long as there's a stigma around addiction, there's going to be a stigma around recovery. It's just, there's so much stigma that is out in the world that people experience day in and day out that closes doors and opportunities for recovery and healing and even just a better essence of life. And society perpetuates it, and we ourselves perpetuate it by the words we use, the things we say, the way we behave, and how we respond to mental health and mental illness. So I think that even though there are 44 million Americans struggling with mental illness, people are choosing not to take the time to educate themselves and learn on ways to support people that are struggling, and instead feel that it is easier to judge or misinterpret, or, ignorance is bliss. And I think that is part of why stigma continues to exist in our society and continues to tell people that if they are struggling, they need to be silent.
It breaks my heart. I want to change this.
Yes.
That's essentially precisely what this show's about. And I've been actually working on some business ideas, sort of building from this podcast, because
awesome.
Yeah, because it's so heartbreaking to, I know, so I'm on the inside. We're on the inside. We know how powerful it is to be vulnerable and to lead with our hearts and to talk about this stuff, because it allows people in, it allows connecting, it allows healing and recovery. And stepping outside of that, it's mind-boggling to me that we can't all get there.
And, to the credit, there are people that are trying to make a difference around this.
Yeah.
There are people that are on big platforms that are talking about it. And so while it is completely devastating to know that stigma is alive and well, I also very much hold on to the hope that as people continue to come forward and break the silence around mental illness, the more people will decide to learn about it and educate themselves and find ways to engage in this community so that people don't feel like their only choice is to be silent.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think I have that hope as well. I mean, we have to have that hope if we're going to keep moving forward.
Yep.
Do you, Christina, believe that therapy is for everyone?
Yes. And let me explain before people tell me it's not. I do. I do think that therapy is a space for personal growth. Whether or not you have a mental health condition, therapy can be a useful space for you to really look at yourself, look at your life, look at your behaviors, look at your thoughts, look at your feelings, and really make some thoughtful and aware choices on how you want things to look like. I think that while psychotherapy is one of the few treatment options for mental illness, it is also a treatment option for anybody who is interested in personal growth. I think there's this idea that there has to be something wrong for you to access support. And my hope is that people start to understand that people can benefit from this specific environment, aka therapy, if they are open to the experience.
I'm so glad you said that, because these are exactly my thoughts around therapy. I agree. I think everyone should go to therapy, not as a blanket, like treating your mental illness, but as you said, as like we as humans can get so insular and so caught up in the thoughts in our head, and we can't do it alone. Like the fact is we cannot do it alone. We need people, and we can't always rely on our friends or our loved ones, because we need sometimes a third party to just get stuff out to and have different perspectives. Right.
And so then this always leads me to the disheartening part, is that millions of people don't have access to therapy. Right. If we know that therapy can be beneficial for anybody, then why is it not, something that is out there that everyone can access? I can't tell you how many times people message me and they're like, yeah, therapy is cool and I don't have access to it. And that is a real thing. It is a real thing that people don't have access to it, depending on where they live, depending on financial resources, depending on even awareness that therapy is something that is an option for them. There's just so many barriers for people to access it. And I that's the part that I feel stuck sometimes, is how do I support people getting access to therapy? And so one of the reasons I created #therapy is cool is so that would happen. Each month, the proceeds go to a different mental health organization that provides therapeutic services. And this could allow that each of these nonprofits have some more funding so that they can offer more services to the communities that they're located. Because I think that we continue to see this barrier of people can utilize therapy, they can benefit from it, yet they don't have access to it.
So proceeds from #therapy is cool goes to these organizations, and then these organizations can theoretically provide free counseling, or is it not free counseling?
So the ones that I donate to all have that option.
Okay.
So I spend way too much time researching mental health organizations that provide therapy. So that those are the criteria for the donation. So A, they're a nonprofit or not-for-profit, and B, they provide therapeutic services. And so since the launch in October, each organization that I have donated to provides that. So it's an opportunity for them to continue to have these accessible to the community without the ongoing burden that they are continuing to have to pick up the bill for, which is a lot of people need services and organizations only have so much funds.
Right. I mean, how do you know, just like playing the devil's advocate here, how do you know that the money goes towards specifically helping an individual get therapy?
So I really spend a lot of time interviewing these organizations.
Okay, so
I called them.
You connected with them.
Oh, yeah.
Nice.
I know that while the financial donation isn't ever going to be as big as I want it to, I want to make sure that every cent counts. And so I find out, so if I donate, where does it go? How do I make sure it goes directly to mental health services? How much would cover 1 year's worth, right? I really try to dial it down. And the majority of these places are not big organizations, right? They're not the ones that a lot of people know. These are ones that are in people's communities. And so I want to make sure that I can access every state, right? And have people have some benefit, because if one person gets treatment because of something that was created to raise awareness and provide funds, then I feel like I have done my job.
Okay. And which are these organizations? Can you name some for the listeners?
Yeah. So October was Alameda Family Services here in Oakland. And in November, it was SOAR out of Delaware that works with survivors of sexual abuse. In December, it was the Wright Institute of Los Angeles, right by you. In January, it was the Headstrong Project in New York that provides free and anonymous mental health services for 9/11 vets. In February, it was Christie's House, which is in Miami, Florida, which provides services for sex trafficking victims and childhood sex abuse. And this month is March, and it is Thresholds in Chicago, which provides substance abuse services and mental health support and medication for severe mental illness and homelessness.
That's awesome.
I think I got them all right.
Good job.
I was like, hold it. So yeah, I try to go across the country and find different organizations that are doing good work, and people can nominate them, and then I vet them and find out what kind of work they're doing, and then give the proceeds after each month's calculation of how many totes were sold, and then send it over to them.
That's really important, because I do, you as a, on the consumer side of things, you don't have a sense of where your donations go usually.
Totally.
It's not clear. It's
right.
Like I want to make the direct impact as possible, but you're not sure. So it's really good to hear that you have done the legwork to kind of ensure that you're providing, what you can.
Yeah, and I think it's important. I think it's important for people to know that if they're purchasing a tote, not only are they literally walking around like a billboard saying #therapy is cool, so that people can see it and ask questions and think about it and interpret it, but they're also giving $20, right, to an organization that is providing therapy. I wanted something to be not just based on awareness, but awareness and providing funds so that therapy can be accessible, because that is a barrier that I continue to see that keeps people from being able to get that benefit.
Yeah. And so, obviously you're doing an amazing job at from whatever power you can as one person
I know.
to make an impact, and it's a beautiful impact. But what in your mind, at being in it, being a therapist, like what in your mind can we do more of to get everyone access to therapy?
Listen, that is like one of the deep life questions.
Sure. I know you don't have all the answers, but I'd love to.
But
what are your thoughts?
I like the invitation to even brainstorm, right? Of like, how can we do this? And how can we encourage that mental health services should be included for everyone? And I think that there's so many systems at play. So one, voting on political and legal issues that affect mental health access is important. I think that all of us have to do the research and learn about the props and learn about the bills and see, is this going to make mental health services more accessible or less accessible? And there are many out there. So step one, as an individual in society, we need to become educated on this. I think step two is that people, if they are able to, need to advocate for these services. A lot of health insurance plans now, thankfully, are covering costs of therapy, but a lot of people don't know that. So knowing that if you have access to insurance, there are services that are most likely going to be covered. And so I talk a lot with people about calling your insurance panels, finding out what they cover, finding a therapist that accepts that insurance, right? How to navigate that system so that even if I'm not the one that's going to be working with them, they know that there are services out there. And I think the last thing to do is for us to continue to talk about the need for mental health services as a preventative measure. We know that millions and millions of dollars are being used for treatment options, including medication, therapy, inpatient, due to the ever-growing, epidemic of mental illness. And if we know that, what are we doing on the preventative side? What are we doing to ensure that people can have access to this early on, so that people are given the opportunity to have a life where they can have productivity and be part of society?
Yeah. Yeah. And another, just preventative measure would be to, break stigma.
Yes.
Right?
Yep. And the one thing I am hopeful about, and that it has started to come to light, is that New York State and Virginia are the first two states to pass mental health education being required in the school system. And I am hopeful about that. I am so hopeful that if people are learning about it in school, that they will take that with them as they continue to navigate life. And so the stigmas that are so often fueled by misinformation or lack of information can then in turn be limited, because there will be an educational component that will be with children from an early age as they go through the school system. And my hope is that every state will adopt this.
Yeah, I didn't realize that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Like I'm in awe of many of my, my followers on Instagram and the listeners of this show. A lot of them being, younger than me, and in some cases much younger than me. And I'm in awe in most cases of their openness and vulnerability. And I just put myself in their sort of 19, 20-year-old shoes. I'm just like, that wouldn't have happened. No, I was shut down emotionally. I was, severely anorexic. And it's so interesting. I think that I'd like to think of that as a hopeful look at, okay, it's getting a bit better.
Yeah, I think it's like a temperature reading of the culture, right?
Yeah.
What are the adolescents and the kids doing? And the fact that people are talking about it and the fact that people are sharing their stories and their experiences is something that brings hope and brings this idea that how can we continue to support people sharing their stories so that we can normalize the human experience, that we all have something that we struggle with, and that accessing support is never going to be a negative thing, but a gift that you can give yourself in this chaotic world that we all live in.
Totally. Yeah. You, Christina, work with children and adolescents. Is that right?
Yeah, so I work primarily with adolescents, young adults,
Okay.
because I think that age group is so vulnerable and
Right.
so many things can go in different ways at that time. And so I'm really wanting to dedicate my time to supporting people who are hitting these roadblocks at an early age in hopes that they can navigate them to have a life that they want to live.
And I love that. And what really warms my heart about that is I hear on this show a lot, and it was certainly the case for me. You said it yourself in your own story. As kids, like, we don't maybe have the brain power and the emotional intelligence to really make sense of what's happening.
Right.
And certainly don't have maybe the language, but I do feel like a certain amount of it can be taught.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, if you're given permission, right?
Yeah.
You are given permission to talk about these things, these feelings, these thoughts, these fears, then you will have the information, the tools, the techniques to navigate them. And so I view therapy as that permission to talk about all the things that you are thinking and feeling and acting. And my hope is that if I can access that at a young age, then they're better equipped for the things that are going to show up later in life.
Yeah, that's awesome. And another aspect of the work you do, from what I've read, is working. You're clearly making the jump from your sort of childhood experience
Yeah,
to now
right?
working with trauma and substance
Yes.
abuse disorders.
Right? Weird how that plays out. It's like, what do I want to be an expert in this?
Yeah.
But yeah.
Like trauma, I'm in particular, and a lot of trauma and substance abuse in my family. What have you learned about trauma as a therapist?
That healing is possible.
Oh, that's nice.
I can't say that enough. I have sat with people in this professional capacity that I'm not sure I could have survived the kind of trauma they have, right? I question my own ability, and yet they are there doing the work to heal. And they are actually healing, and they are actually having a life that is not destroyed by trauma or years of trauma, right? And so I truly, truly believe that the one thing I hold on to is that healing is possible, that trauma is devastating, and healing at the end of the day is possible.
I think I and all of us needed to hear that. Because it's such a, trauma is a scary word. And
yes.
I've even used on this show before, like I've said, quote, big T trauma, to describe certain experiences and certain events for myself and for others.
Right.
And it is a scary word.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it can be misinterpreted or it can be misused, right? But it's a word that really encapsulates experience or experiences that have significantly and negatively impacted you.
Yeah.
And I think that there's this misconception and a long list of what trauma is and what it looks like and how the healing process works. And there's not ever going to be a one size fit all. I think everyone's healing journey is unique and different and isn't comparative to anyone else's.
Right. Right. Yeah. And so I was having a conversation with a guest of the show once, and it was Aaron Smith, and he had said that, I'm curious to get your thoughts on this. He had said that there is more of an understanding and more of an acceptance for things like depression and anxiety, and less so and more fear and more stigma for things like schizophrenia or bipolar disorder. Do you feel like that's true?
Yeah, I am in full agreement that the mental health conditions that people seem to have more acceptance around are the ones that more people experience.
Yeah.
So what we know is that depression and anxiety are the two most common mental health conditions.
Yeah.
So it would make sense to me that if there is a large portion of people that are experiencing this, that there is access to information and learning that is going around this. When there is a smaller subset of people experiencing something like schizophrenia, bipolar disorder, psychosis, that we then lean into the stigma part more because we don't have that information. And so we rely on the little bits of information that we might know. And a lot of that can look scary or confusing or not something we can really wrap our minds around. And so we then lean into the stigma versus, I don't know much about this mental health condition. What can I do to educate myself around it?
Yeah. Education is so important.
It really, really is.
I mean, we can't say that enough. I mean, if you like, I think we can use that broadly in life. I feel like so much fear and persecution and judgment and exclusion comes out of just not being educated on something.
Right. Yeah. And I try to understand the part that choosing to access education around this takes time and effort and energy, and maybe people don't feel like they have that. But at the same time, we are part of a collective society. And so we do all need to do a part, ensure to make this something that is more inclusive.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. We're all in this together.
Yeah.
So how is the #TherapyCool campaign going? Are you getting a lot of purchases, a lot of responses? What's that been like for you?
Yeah, people are amazing. That's what I just want to start off with. What came up as like this is a little idea, ran it by some people. They're like, oh yeah, that sounds good. I was not prepared. I was not prepared emotionally or physically or mentally for how it took off. And I am just in deep appreciation for people that follow my Dr. Christina Instagram account. They see that weekly I'm going on. I'm just thanking people left and right, just thanking them for supporting this cause, because sure, I could wear a bag myself, and I do, but that doesn't do what collectively, if we all come together, what it would do. And every day I get emails from people talking about the tote, whether they wore it, they saw it, someone had a comment on it. And it is kind of the refueling that I get every day to kind of continue to do this advocacy work. Yeah. And people respond and people care. And so the days where I'm feeling like stigma's going to win, all I have to do is open up an email and be like, nope, actually, that is not a useful thought, because there's somebody who's out there fighting stigma out in the open, wearing their tote, answering questions. And I think that we have to change the conversation around mental health. And so the hashtag therapy is cool tote is that conversation starter. I've had people make incredibly rude comments about it. And I've had people make incredibly thoughtful, shifting mindsets around it. And so the goal is that people are sharing it. There's a hashtag therapy is cool Instagram and Facebook account where I literally repost people's posts. And hundreds of people are taking pictures, uploading it to social media, and letting all of their accounts that they follow or follow them know that we don't have to be silent and we can talk about things like mental health and therapy.
Oh, it's so cool. I love that it's a conversation starter because there's so much that we lug around and wear, and that of course does not do that. So I love that. Right. That it's that sort of conversation starter. Have you got any good stories from people who've like, oh yeah, someone asked about it and I was, it was this sort of jumping off point for talking about mental health with this random stranger?
Totally. And that's the stories that I literally take pictures of on my phone and store because I want to have them forever and I want to pass them down to my family. I believe that we are all capable of doing something that can change the world. And so when people send me messages and they say, one that I posted about, which was hilarious, this friend of mine was wearing her tote and she lives in a different state than me. And she was in the elevator and she was with two other professional males as they were leaving a work building. And one of them said, what's that tote? And she did the great, spiel about that this is a mental health action campaign used to raise awareness and change the conversation around mental health. And the guy must have not been listening because guy number one said, well, you better be careful because people are going to think you're in therapy.
Oh, boy.
So then she responds and it's like, yeah, that's the point, that these are conversations for us to ask, why is that a negative response? Why do we think therapy is something bad? And male number two elevator guy, who was friends with male number one and his ignorant statement, said, John, I don't know what you're talking about. Therapy is the best thing I ever did.
Oh, nice.
And it was amazing.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that.
Right? That conversation just happened where there's two coworkers and one guy is just really fueling the stigma and the other guy in that moment had an opportunity to stay silent or say something. And he said something.
Yeah. That's what authenticity is. That's what, vulnerability is. That's, that's beautiful.
Yeah. So I take pictures and, yesterday somebody emailed me and said that they're a third grade teacher and they pinned it on their wall. And I was like, what? This is amazing.
Excellent.
Right. And so I get emotional in a good way because I want to feel this feeling. I want to feel that there are people who, I created a vehicle that other people need to drive, right? I can drive mine, but other people have to drive it. And so people are wanting to put this in places for people to see. And I picked a tote because I wanted something that people use every day, right? And so that are big and aware, and you're a walking billboard letting the world know that, stigma does not belong here anymore. It kills people. Literally, stigma kills people. And so we can all do a part. And this is the part that I want to do for as long as I can.
I love it.
That's the game plan.
We talked at the top about how, you're trying to, create boundaries and balance in your life, being a very busy therapist and doing all the things and saying yes to all the things. I'm curious, tied to that, what does your self-care look like?
Well, my self-care looks a lot like leaving work at work and having home be home. I think that has been my ever growing self-care model, which is knowing when to shut off the devices and the work life and when to re-engage in the things that make me happy and fulfilled. So it's not the answer that people like, which is like, I do yoga and meditate, but it's about, I take care of myself and trying to adjust balance so that life can continue to have all the parts that fulfill me, because work is one of them, but it is not all of them.
I think that's a really good point, because if we're not creating those boundaries, if we're not like leaving the work at home, creating those sort of silos,
Yes.
we're not going to be able to do the yoga. We're not going to get what we what we can out of the yoga or the mindfulness.
Yes. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. Have you read anything mind blowing lately?
No.
Are you a book
Don't
reader?
ask me those questions. Mind blowing. I don't know. I don't think I have. But it's making me think that I should.
No, not at all. I was just curious.
I'm like, maybe I need to get back in that.
No, I was just curious.
I actually have to go because I realized that we're over and I have my 3:00 patient.
Oh my goodness.
In the waiting room.
Oh my goodness. So, okay, we can wrap up.
So tell me what you need for wrap up.
Yes. So just, do you have like 2 minutes?
I can make it.
Okay. So we always wrap up the show talking about empathy heroes.
Okay.
Who's an empathy hero of yours? Could be anyone. Anyone you know. Could be a fictional character.
Okay, I would have to say my friend Maya Smith is my empathy hero. She is actually the CEO of the Born This Way Foundation. And that is Lady Gaga's foundation that focuses on kindness and mental health.
Oh, lovely.
And she is somebody that lives in my town that I know in real life. And she is part of the inspiration behind my campaign because she is the most giving, empathetic, kind person. And so she's my empathy hero.
Awesome.
Hi, Maya. I'll send this to you.
And I'll just list my empathy hero in the intro for this episode. Just where can people connect with you, Christina?
So I have the Dr. Christina Instagram account, and that is my only professional account that features me. And then there is the Twitter account for Dr. Christina as well. It's less me and more kind of articles and things that I think are important to share around mental health. And for the #Therapy is Cool mental health action campaign, you can go to the website, which is www. Spelled out HASHTAG therapyiscool.com. And there are different sections where you can have updates and information and products. And then there's also a Facebook and Instagram account at #therapyiscool. Again, the hashtag is spelled out.
Lovely. Well, go get to your patient. Thank you very much for being a guest on You Me Empathy.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Take care.
All right. You too. Bye.
Bye-bye.